I'm reminded of some words. Does anyone remember a chap called David Cameron? He was quite famous once, saying that the best thing to do when you have to give a presentation or a big speech in front of an important and invited audience, an hour or so before the presentation, have a large cup of coffee. Don't go to the toilet. It keeps you on your toes and makes the presentation more lively. So I promise you a lively presentation this morning. I am going to, in a moment, hand over to Juan Bicaregui, who's going to offer a proper welcome. But let me just get ourselves underway. Welcome to you all here. Welcome to those joining us online. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever the time. It's time for iPres 2022. So let me hand on now to Juan Bicaregui, Chair of the DPC, to offer you a word of welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Welcome to iPres on behalf of the Digital Preservation Coalition, and DPC are absolutely delighted to be hosting this 18th iPres. And 18 in some ways is a coming of age, but I don't think it works like that for conferences. Conference years must be a bit like dog years, which count double or something, because iPres has been a very mature conference for quite some time. And so now we just continue. It's also 20 years since the foundation of the DPC. So the last 2 decades have really seen a huge change. What an amazing 2 decades it's been, especially for DPC. When DPC started 20 years ago, it was just a small group of a few members from the UK and Ireland, and today there's 130 members from all over the globe. So quite astonishing. And we just opened an office, well, not just, in the last few years opened an office in Australia, and there are plans to open offices in other continents as well. But it's not just about the number of members, it's about the variety of the members. There's so many different types of organisation in the DPC now. It's not just the memory institutions. Of course, there are memory institutions as members, but we've also got global corporations, broadcasters, investors, higher education, research institutes, funding bodies, professional bodies, all sorts of different organisations, because they all need to fundamentally preserve their digital objects. So thanks to the team, to the DPC team, headed up by Williams, but every last one of them has been doing an incredible amount of work to get this organisation together. They all do it with such energy and enthusiasm. It's fantastic to be involved with the DPC. They all work together to build the inclusive global community that work together to bring about a sustainable future, which is the vision of the DPC. And I'd like to thank them for all the amazing work. And I'm sure you'd all like to thank them for the amazing work they've done in putting this together as well. And so far, no disasters. Anyway, I won't keep you from the talks that you want to hear. You don't want to hear me going on about these high and mighty things. Let's get on with the real work of the conference. So welcome, and I hope you have a great conference.
Okay, and next up, it's a pleasure to introduce the co-chairs of the iPres steering group, which is Andrea Gotals of the National Library of New Zealand and Seamus Ross of the University of Toronto, and formerly of this parish.
As co-chairs of the iPres steering committee, Andrea Gotals and I, Seamus Ross, wish to welcome you to iPres 2022. As many of you know, iPres is a peripatetic annual conference looked after by the iPres steering committee. The work of making each iPres conference a success results from the vision and dedication of local teams. The first iteration of the conference was in Beijing in 2004, and this is the second time that iPres has been hosted in the United Kingdom, and the first time it has been in Scotland. This year's conference is remarkable for the breadth and depth of the program, the diversity of events, the richness of the hybrid offering, and the scale of participation.
We wish to thank the General Chair, William Kilbride, his colleagues, the organizing committee, the reviewers of event, paper, poster, and workshop proposals and awards, and all those who participated in the numerous committees that were necessary to deliver this conference, for their commitment and vision. Of course, ultimately, the success of the conference is made possible by the participation of all of you delegates. The diversity of ways in which attendees can engage with digital preservation through tutorials, workshops, posters, papers, panels, and events is impressive. Enjoy the conference.
So let's get ourselves underway then. Colleagues and friends, a word in earnest is as good as a speech. You are welcome and you are home. 2022 is the 20th anniversary of the DPC, as you know. And our mission has remained constant over these 2 decades, even if the mission has grown. Our foundation is the recognition that digital preservation is not only a technical problem, it's also a human challenge. And we're used to the idea of renewing our technical infrastructure. But it's a socio-technical challenge we face, and if all we bring is the technology and don't renew the social infrastructure, then we're not going to succeed. As the posters around town almost say, people make digital preservation. Also constant through that time has been the hospitality and generosity of colleagues around the world and partners to the DPC. The coalition, I personally, have travelled by land and sea and air and once even by canal boat to help and develop the digital preservation community. We've been on planes, trains and automobiles and more platforms than Glasgow Central Station. We have been your guests and you have made us welcome. And this week, in the year marking our 20th anniversary of our foundation, it's our pleasure, therefore, to repay that generosity, to renew those friendships, and welcome you all from all over the world. So welcome to Glasgow. This is our home, and it's your home too. For at least, let me cheerfully claim you all, therefore, as new Scots for now, and for as long as you choose to stay with us. Put another way, we need all the help we can get. As the song almost says, you belong to Glasgow and Glasgow belongs to you. Now this is a big and diverse crowd, bigger than we could have expected and more bigger than we expected and more diverse than we dared hope. Every continent except Antarctica is present at the conference, and I'm even led to believe that the Antarctic Survey have made themselves present here too. Many sectors, many nationalities, many career stages. More than half of the delegates are first-time attendees, and probably more, it's the first time in Glasgow. My children watched the live feed last night of the award ceremony where one or two of the speakers noted it was their first time in Scotland, their first time in Glasgow, and Daisy, who's all of 8, looked astonished at the news. Where have they been all this time, she asked. We're not having a sheltered upbringing, but you know how it goes. You do your best for your children. We know and celebrate that diversity, the promise of inclusion and welcome. Put another way, the warmth of the welcome that we have for you is the warmth of the welcome we should have for each other. So some quick orientation before we go further. You'll already have met our secretariat at the registration desk, which is staffed pretty much continuously from 8 a.m. And there's also a happy band of volunteers to help and assist with the practicalities. I can see a mint green hoodie even in my line of sight just now. And they're there for helping you with anything that you need help with. Everyone finding their way around, being where you need to be. You've all picked up your badges, which are colour-coded, and there's actually gold badges for the local organising committee. Because, you know, there's no point in being the chair of an international conference if you can't give yourself a gold badge at least once. There's also a plethora of other badges, ones that say, here to help, and I'm from Glasgow. So you can use those as well to provide a bit of informal support if you need to ask for a hand. The 2 badges, here to help, and I'm from Glasgow, are there to give you a bit more informal support as you need it. And maybe the last one is also a bit of a plea for help. There's also badges indicating your expectation for social distancing, and please can we encourage everyone to wear that badge? Because I want to start the conference by acknowledging how hard the last 3 years have been. None of us have been unaffected by the pandemic. And I have felt very keenly the desire to be with you all again in person, and find myself quite emotional at the prospect of iPres at scale 1:1. You are all much taller than I remember. So I am delighted. I've longed to be together in company, but I know I am myself strangely perplexed at how to do it. Amanda Gorman gets it right as always. By hello, we mean let us not say goodbye again. Let's recognise that and take care of each other. I want to make a special mention here of the workers who have kept us safe through the pandemic. And I also want especially to repeat my thanks to the previous hosts of iPres in 2021. They faced enormous difficulties, but held firm to the idea that if you're doing digital preservation on your own, you're doing it wrong. A special mention as well, if I may, to the friends of iPres, many of them gathered here today, for planning, who pulled off the most amazing feat of logistics and planning to deliver the We Miss iPres Festival in September 2020. And it occurs to me that they never got the round of applause and the ovation that they deserve. So that time is now. On the subject of COVID, I want to reassure you that we've taken due precautions, including consulting public health professionals about the conference and about the venue. Now, the restrictions in Scotland have largely been lifted, but the government recommendation remains that masks should be worn indoors at public events. This conference brings many people together from many places into one large space for an extended period, so I want to repeat that advice and encourage you, please, to wear a face mask as appropriate, even if you no longer do so routinely, and perhaps in passive moments, sitting in the audience, for example. Put another way, as General Chair of the conference, I have responsibility for the health and well-being of you all and your loved ones when you get home, so please help me with that in that respect. Of course, if you have symptoms, don't come to the conference venue. If you need a test, then contact us. We can provide that. If you find the large crowd overwhelming, well, remember that all of the plenary sessions are also being live streamed to the quieter room 3, which will be spacious and sparsely attended. Different colours of lanyard are also meaningful. Specifically, we have red lanyard for delegates who'd rather not appear in photographs. That's important for the official photographer who's on site with us at the conference, but we also ask that you respect this with your own snaps and selfies. You'll be aware that we are convening at a significant moment in history. The local organising committee has already expressed on your behalf our condolences to the royal family and all of those affected. We are setting up a book of remembrance, which is a traditional way of paying respects both collectively and in person. And you will be invited to leave a message in the book, and you may wish to take a moment to reflect on the message. At the end of the conference, we'll convey this to the royal household through our colleagues at the National Records of Scotland. I saw Garth come in. He doesn't know I'd put that line in. I hope that's okay, Garth. The Queen's death does not impact materially on the core of the conference, but I'll turn to that in a moment. We did wonder whether we should change the tone and texture of the social programme. This extraordinary occasion means agencies in the UK may be less festive and less celebratory than they might otherwise have been. But our emphasis remains the same, our sense of community, which arises through collaboration, and in particular, our gratitude to those who have generously given service and helped progress this community over 20 years. Let me put this another way. The press coverage now talks of a promise made and kept for a lifetime. Marking service, and yes, celebrating it, seems entirely in keeping with the times. Now, as you may know, the Lord Provost Department has regretfully withdrawn its invitation to the City Chambers for the welcome civic reception tonight. This will now take place here in the conference venue at the slightly earlier time of 5:30, immediately after the end of the last session. Let me also briefly reflect on the programme in the light of these events. Here's a traditional saying that you may hear in the coming days. The Queen is dead, long live the King. There's a huge amount packed into those 8 words. It's very much a phrase of the moment, and it speaks of the past and the present. It looks significantly to the future and speaks profoundly of the past. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow. That could well be the subtitle of every single paper in our conference. The digital age, and digital preservation in particular, spell this out. Continuity means a commitment to change, and change means a commitment to learning, and learning means openness to each other. For ourselves too, our plans and our conference have briefly changed, but this is still iPres 2022, and a word in earnest is still as good as a speech. You are welcome, and iPres is home. Let me turn now to the programme. I won't do a deep dive, as we'd be here all day, but there are 4 concurrent strands each day. One of the strands is hosted entirely online, and it's going to be screened to room 3. 2 of the strands are webcast live, including from this big room, and the 4th strand is being recorded for playback later. These recordings, all of the recordings, will be on the platform and available for delegates afterwards, and ultimately available under mostly open access. Fear of missing out no more. Tuesday and Wednesday open with a keynote and are followed by concurrent strands in sessions of 90 minutes. On Thursday, the order is reversed. The keynote comes at the end of the day. Posters on Wednesday and Thursday in 2 halves. Ad hoc activities, of course, including the games room and the great digital preservation bake-off, which looks like it's going to be a real highlight. And let me be the first person to say, there's no actual baking. I will pause here for a moment and to thank the very large programme committee, deliberately large. The group is about 50% larger this year, including around 50% new faces, people who haven't been on an iPres steering or programme committee before. We're hoping in this way to develop the next generation of leaders. And my goodness, have they succeeded. They have been helped by a huge army of reviewers, and they in turn have worked through a massive outpouring of contributions and proposals. And I am very grateful to all of them. Friday on the programme is our professional visits, and there is an amazing range of people to meet and greet you, so to speak, in their homes, in their works. Friday is going to be a sensational day, and do take advantage of that opportunity. But did I mention fear of missing out? We can't be at all of them, unfortunately. The social programme is relatively simple. We have a welcome reception tonight when we'll be welcomed to the city, but here in the conference venue. Wednesday is the conference dinner and ceilidh at the Grand Central Hotel. Has iPres ever had a ceilidh before? Do we know? Perhaps, perhaps not. Maybe that's something we should do every year. And I'm going to thank at this point the local organising committee who have helped pull all of this together. Absolutely the best way to interact with the programme is on the app. We've worked very hard to reduce waste and to reduce the carbon footprint of our conference. And I think this is the first iPres ever to have an explicit environmental policy, and there's a benchmarking exercise on carbon consumption underway. We really do hope that this becomes something iPres does every year. Anyway, that's why the app matters. There's no bag, there's no booklet, there's no pack as such. It's all online. Not just the program, but live updates, posters, videos, networking are all on the app. Let me turn finally here to why iPres at all. We face a global challenge to fulfill the promise of the digital revolution. As new technology becomes old and high tech becomes low, to build a digital inheritance that endures. Maintaining the best of our generation and handing it to the next, a promise fulfilled, a promise worth fulfilling. Enabling innovation with resilience to be healthier and wealthier, safer, greener, smarter, more creative, more transparent, more accountable. This is the challenge of digital preservation. Digits for all, for good, forever. And it's a shared challenge. It's the challenge that the DPC has faced since our foundation 20 years ago. iPres adopts the motto of our host city. So the conference theme, Digits for All, for Good, Forever, has the subtitle, Let Digits Flourish. It invites reflection and debate about how digital preservation can support flourishing communities, ecologies, economies, and ideas. The name Glasgow literally means the dear green place, a place to consider the ethical and ecological contexts of our work. Glasgow is the workers' city, building sustainable communities of practice and professional exchange. Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations in Glasgow, a place to model, measure, and expand an emerging digital economy, open to all, with common purpose for the common good. Glasgow is a city of revolutions, industrial and otherwise. It's a place of innovation and radical disruption. Glasgow is Clyde-built, an idiom that means built to last, engineered for the harshest of conditions and enduring whatever comes. So join the story and let digits flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, a word in earnest is as good as a speech. You are welcome and you are home.